Hey there again, and thanks for joining me for another in this series of silly little videos. You must be as bored as I am. Obviously, it's been a few months since my last video, and I'm here on the Western Reserve Greenway, a bike trail in the northeastern part of the state of Ohio. It's a trail that, when completed, will run all the way from Lake Erie in the northern part of the state to the northern part of the Ohio River in the eastern portion of Ohio. I'm just getting started, so take a walk with me and we'll see what we can find. Since I have the opportunity with this fresh blanket of snow and being so close to this Greenway trail, I'd like to use this episode to focus on animal tracks and how it allows us to understand movements of wildlife. Especially in the snow during this time of year, you can very easily understand why an animal moves the way it does and where the animal goes. Creatures of temperate forests like this are creatures of habit as well, and they tend to move in the same trails, especially deer and turkeys, that they use every day from their bedding areas or their roosting areas to places where they get food and water. I'm not going to stop to point out every track I see, but I will point out especially distinctive tracks or things that might help you understand which direction an animal's moving in, or how fast or how large the animal is. Here's a good example. I mentioned rabbits. This isn't a very fresh track again, but rabbits are fun. I'm going to use this blank patch of snow here to illustrate what I mean about rabbit tracks. Think about a rabbit's feet. It's got large feet in the back that it uses to jump, and it's got those two small feet in the front, right? So you may think that a rabbit track, when it's moving, would leave the two large footprints and then the two small ones in front. When rabbits move, however, their legs cross. Their front feet go in between their back legs. So when they jump, in fact, the two large front feet indicate the direction of the track, and the two small feet appear behind it. The next rabbit track, for instance, would be here. Of course, further apart. Now, when a rabbit stops mid-hop, you'll see the track that had been moving in this direction reverse, where they stand still. And they'll usually paw around, so you'll see a couple more footprints in front of that one. But that's a good way to tell what direction a rabbit's traveling in. If you see multiple tracks in a row, the two long tracks point in the direction of travel. I'll show you the real tracks now. Alright, these are our real rabbit tracks. You can see that this rabbit here is moving in this direction. There's his next print. It's a rather large jump. And he moves in to join the trail of this other rabbit, which is smaller, that's moving from this direction. And they both move off towards this tree here. So you can see the tracks kind of blend together. But that previous one there is a good example of how the larger front feet appear in front of the front feet. Alright, I found some tracks of a smaller rabbit here, and you can see that on smaller animals, the tracks do tend to blend together. There's all 4 feet there, if you look closely. And these tracks are spaced about every 15 or 18 inches. Oh wait, that's not a rabbit. If we turn this way, we can see that that's a turkey moving out of the woods. Alright, I found something here that's definitely worth looking at. They're not very fresh tracks, and you can tell that. I'll show you why in a minute. But it's a turkey trail, and you can see where they come single file out of the woods and spread out as they cross this open area, and then file back into a single file as they cross and move on into the woods in the other direction. Turkeys are a very easily identifiable track because they have a very significant drag mark in this depth of snow, usually from ½ an inch to where it starts to get deeper, then the track loses its definition. But in this particular depth of snow, their middle toe, which is much longer than their others, leaves a very distinct drag mark moving forward from their track, which also tells you the direction the turkey was traveling if you couldn't figure that out already. I'll show you what I mean. You could just barely see through the trees where the trail starts in the woods and begins to spread out as it moves towards the trail. And once it opens up, you can start to notice distinct separate tracks. There's one there. You can see that by the fresh snow that's gathered inside the track, it's not very fresh. But if you look in front of the track itself, you can see right here that drag mark left by the turkey's middle toe pushing the snow out of the way as he walked. There were obviously multiple turkeys traveling, as these tracks look all about the same age, and they tend to, especially this time of year, move in small groups. And you can see it crosses all the way across the trail, and they file back into just this one little, probably a deer path that they use that moves on through the woods. This trail, the Western Reserve Greenway, is specifically reserved for bicyclists, pedestrians, and other people who are using the trail in a low-speed fashion. Any motorized vehicles are prohibited from using the trail, although unfortunately in the winter that's not always the case. A lot of snowmobilers like to sneak past the concrete pylons and run these trails at really high speeds. Some people don't think it's a very big deal in the wintertime because not a lot of people use the trail. I'm totally by myself right now. But anytime high speeds and pedestrians interact, there's a very high potential for an accident, and I don't like to see it. Not to mention it ruins all the perfectly good animal tracks that cross these paved trails all over the place. The winter is especially a good time to look for tracks that you might not see at other times of the year. Alright, this track here is an interesting example. I wish I had been able to come out here and film these tracks yesterday when they were fresh, but I was at work. This track just appears right out of this brush here from the other side. You can see where it comes underneath this hay right here, and then comes out right here on this other side, and it looks like a little trough. I'll zoom in so you can see. If you look closely, it just looks like a little trench with little feet marks on the side. And you can tell that this is some type of a rodent because there's a tail drag mark down the middle. If I bring you in any closer, you're not going to be able to see because the snow is recrystallized over top of it. But this is a very characteristic rodent track. And when they're fresh, they're easy to discern because rodents come straight up out of the snow from a little hole sometimes. If the snow has any depth to it, they'll burrow underneath. And then you'll see the little footprints and a little tail drag mark in the middle. After a good snow, this trail is a very good place to find wildlife tracks. And there are all manner of different animals you can find, especially turkeys, squirrels, rabbits, and deer. And crisscrossing this trail in every which way you could imagine are not only dog tracks from people walking their pets up and down, but also very crisp, clear, easily discernible wildlife tracks because the trail itself is paved underneath the fresh snow. And here, where the trail isn't paved, the tracks can be just as distinctive. This is a good example of what a few deer can do during an evening and a morning to the soft side of a small field. Alright, sorry to break it to you, but I'm going to have to go into work. I just got called in. But I'm going to have to tell you that I will be back with parts 2 and 3, and we'll be back out here on the Greenway to look at more tracks. See you next time.